Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. Old Virginia.
My name is Luke Darnell, Pitmaster of Old Virginia Smoke Barbecue, and I'm here to tell you about my new online class available at barbecuechamps.com. This is a 100% tell-all competition barbecue class from yours truly, available online. It is a masterclass with 34 high-definition tell-all online competition barbecue videos that can be watched anytime, and they do not expire. They are packed full of pro tips, techniques, and recipes that will show you how to take your barbecue to the next level. These 34 barbecue cooking videos total 7 hours and will show you everything that you need to take your competition cooking to a level that you never thought was possible. We've already heard from several teams that have bought our classes and have already seen success and gotten their first calls. So this is something that brings me a lot of joy in sharing my knowledge and seeing people be successful with it. So are you ready to take your competition and backyard cooking to the next level? What are you waiting for? Just go ahead and go to barbecuechamps.com and find Luke Darnell, Old Virginia Smoke. We hope you learn a lot and enjoy these videos and have as much fun cooking these recipes as we had making them. This podcast is brought to you by barbecuedata.com. Barbecuedata.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to barbecuedata.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on barbecuedata.com. Welcome to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. My name is Luke Darnell, your host, and I am here with the most recent first-time GC winner in KCBS, Dennis Bowman from Bowman's Butts and Barbecue. How are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Grand champion on day one at Jiggy with the Piggy in Kannapolis, North Carolina. And as someone who I'm pretty sure I've been around for your entire barbecue career, when you started out in backyard and had a lot of success there, then made the jump to pros, and knowing what I know about you as a cook and as a person and everything that especially all of your friends around say, knowing that you can cook, this was only a matter of time. And just to pull it together for a 708 and get your first win at one of the biggest contests on the East Coast, man, that is just congratulations.
I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, that was the size of that contest. What really blew me away too, like doing it in that way, you know.
Absolutely, and the teams that were there.
Yeah,
I mean, if it was, Pennsylvania and down, every great team basically on the East Coast was there.
Yeah.
And to throw up a 708, yeah, just amazing, dude. Couldn't have been more proud. We're sitting there and they're counting it down, and I'm like, it's got to be either Devo or Chunky. It's one of the
that's
two.
what I was like. It's one of us.
And we're sitting there, and John's a good friend of mine, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm not upset if either one of these win, and then when they called Chunky for reserve, I was like, oh shit, it's on. Let's go. So, I mean, you've won before on the backyard circuit. What's the difference between winning on the backyard circuit and winning on this in the Master Series?
Oh gosh, man. It's this one. I felt like not that it's, it's there's a lot of tough competitors in backyard, and it got
absolutely.
competitive. But I feel like we worked harder and longer on this one. Like this was a harder journey and a little harder than I thought it was going to be. I really thought like we would have to dial in brisket. I didn't really know as much, obviously coming out of backyard, and I was like, I'll work on this. And in my mind, I thought, I was like, I bet we could pull this together at a contest within a year or so, and this is the third year now competing Master Series. So it's just, I was actually thinking last night, I was trying to think through this, and I was like, in backyard when there was a 3 meat competition, it kind of used to be my specialty.
Right.
I feel like we GC'd a lot of 3 meats because typically backyard teams, there's only a few of them that cook pork really well. So the pork category is kind of funky, and so we would always be in the mix with chicken and ribs, but then we could do pork really well, so we would always be in the running. And in Master Series, it's just everyone just is so on their game with all the categories that you really just can't throw up a bad number in a. We kind of figured that out last year in Covington. It was our first real good competition when we got a first place pork and first place brisket, and we still ended up third place because we messed our chicken up that day. And it was like, and it's like, man, you really can't fail in a category with like, especially in this area in Maba on the East Coast. You really got to like make sure you're in tune with all 4 categories to get it done.
Yeah, and it's not missing, but it's also, being consistent, and and there's also, you got to hit the right tables, especially, that's a big deal too. But you're absolutely right. You have to put together 4 great entries anymore. Like, you're not going to skate by with, my ribs were okay, I hope I sneak a 10th. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's what it seems. You really got to you got to dial it all in. As you said, you got to, there's a piece of it, you got to, that little bit of luck has to go your way, but you really got to put a solid cook together in all 4 categories at the same time.
And yeah, man, I mean, it was just the joy in that room that day. I know a lot of your buddies were there, and they were the first ones that were up, John and David and all those guys. And Kim was like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I've got to walk up there. Like, this is cool shit, man. Like, this is like, this is awesome." And that I could say that about, you guys need a nickname or something. Like the group of you that all came up together and that have moved up and are doing so well, like, it's awesome to see. And it's great for barbecue because we need young guys, and we need new blood, and it's really provided a huge infusion of excitement and talent into what we do.
I agree. And it's there was just that, it was that same group that was really fueling the energy in that backyard circuit from, 2019 to 2021. And then, and it's still kind of going, but, a big chunk of us started moving up after that 2021 year. And then, and everyone relatively has had good success also, doing really well.
Yeah. You got you, Henry, John, Dave. I mean, the list goes, Toby's done great.
Yeah. Steve.
Steve's done great. Spent a lot of time with him in Jamestown. Just a great guy. And it's been fun to get to know you guys, and it's just exciting time, and what's your background in terms of cooking? Where does your confidence in cooking barbecue come from?
So it all kind of started, it started in around 2010 or so. And it was from Barbecue Pitmasters. Probably, there's probably a huge chunk of us. That's where it all started from. Watch that and I was like, oh, that is cool. Like, I didn't know people competed at this. And, all I had was a gas grill at the time. And I almost burned the house down. I tried like smoking ribs on a gas grill. So I'd put like aluminum foil with like chips and water under the gas burner. And I quickly ended up getting some cheap, little smoker later that Christmas, I think. And after that, it was pork butts is all I would do. And so then it became those things like anytime there's a cookout, like, oh, Dennis will smoke a pork butt. Dennis will always cook a pork butt for us. And I'm from Carroll County, right next to Galax. And so I've always known about Smoke on the Mountain. And, so I've always just heard about that. So it was 2017. I was like, I think I'm going to sign up because they got like a contest. And it was the Patio Porkers division, which is like their backyard.
Yeah.
So we signed up for that, and I did they didn't even give results at those. Like, it was so like, it's so crazy to think where everything was at that point. They didn't even tell you. All you knew is who got first and second. Chris Shriver won it. And I remember actually Chris Shriver was right across from me, and I didn't know, I was like, my ribs are so good. It was terrible. Probably. I don't even know what I was doing then. And I went over and he was cooking, what I would call more of a competition style, rib. And I remember they looked like candy, and I took a bite and I was like, whoa, Like, what is this? And he was like, yeah, play around with, your rib wraps. And he kind of gave me just enough to send me on this wild goose hunt. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, we gotta sign up for something else. And then I found one, butts and beans competition down in Hickory, North Carolina.
Yep.
Is a KCBS one that, used to run down there. And so anyways, we signed up for that, and I got in the backyard division, I got like a 5th place and a 4th place call in like pork and ribs. And man, you thought I won the Olympics. Like I was so, and at that point it was just I was like, oh, I can't stop. And it was just an addiction after that.
That first call, those first calls are the most expensive calls you ever get.
That's right, man.
Because you're like, now I'm in.
Yeah. Oh, I was in deep. At that point, I was so invested and still did terrible. Didn't know anything what I was doing for like probably a year or two after that. I for like a year, I was dumping maraschino cherries and maraschino cherry juice in my rib wrap. I was doing all kinds of stuff, man, that like, I don't know, until like I started, really dialing it in. And I took a cooking class actually I don't know if you know the guy, Kit Rudd. He used to live out of
yeah.
He had a
he used
class
to live right down the road from me.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he moved, and so it was before he moved. So it's probably maybe where he used to live. Is that closer to you? Because I think he moved to Richmond, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my dad and I went to a cooking class he had at his house, and that's what kind of like level set me with some basics at competition. And then it was later that year is when I kind of officially figured it out, I would say. And I got my first place call, and we RGC'd, and then we just kind of went on this backyard tear for a couple months and got 2 RGCs and 2 GCs. And it was just off to the races, because I feel like I had really figured it out. That's really when I started getting the confidence and really building on a lot of things.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you, like, you just answered that, like, what was the aha moment? And that makes sense. Kit was a great cook around here for a long time on the circuit. And, yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. That's, yeah.
Yeah. When we went in, I mean, he had, I hadn't really met, at a competition, of course, but really talked with anyone that had a lot of success. I remember he just had his whole walls were just lined with trophies everywhere. We stayed all day there. We got there at like 7 a.m. We were there until like 5 or 6 that night. It was at his house. He did it. It was super cool. And I was the only one that was really into competition cooking. I think everyone else was like really just backyard grillers that just kind of wanted to know how to cook good food, And so then he kind of took me under his wing at that point, and just was talking to me constantly about recipes and techniques, and I would chat him up until when I won the backyard first invitational world championship. I actually switched back to his chicken recipe for that competition. Cause I talked to him a whole bunch the month before that, and he was kind of giving me some pointers and tips.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. And you brought up somebody that I was going to wait till later. You cook with your old man.
Yeah.
And that is just awesome, man. Just seeing his face light up on Saturday and seeing his smile in the pictures. That's talk about doing this with your pop. I know that's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool because it just quickly became that. It didn't start like that. I wanted to just, do that rib cook and Galax. And then before you know it, Dad was just always with me at it. So he kind of, within like a year became, I guess, my sous chef, in this experiment, and we were trying to go after. And then, like I said, he, really, I think it was after we went to Kit's class, cause he kind of saw all that. And then, and after that, it was just like a thing, like almost, unless he's out of town or can't make it, he's always at the competitions. And it was really cool. I was glad he was there, cause there's a few, like he won't be with me next month at Almost Heaven, but, he really doesn't miss any of them. And it was so cool that it was him and I, cause, the only time I saw him really get emotional was when we won the world championship out in Kansas, the backyard one. And then this one, it was right when they called Chunky's name. I was like, we got it. And I could tell he was getting all emotional. And I was like, we were so nervous coming down. We keep running into these third place calls, and after once they got past third place, I was like, but then when they called Chunky, I was like, can you believe that? I was like, we got it. Can't believe it. I could tell he was like taking his glasses off and stuff.
That was so cool to see. I gave him a big hug too. I was like, because that's awesome to see. I love it when I see families out there cooking together, and even in Jamestown, I got to meet your sister a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And she was cooking backyard, and she should stop cooking barbecue and start making cookies for a living. Because damn.
Those cookies were so good. She just made them for a catering event for me that week before, and I was like, you got to make these again.
Yeah, those were incredible. That was the best thing I ate that weekend was that cookie. It was unbelievable. I don't even want to say what it was because I don't want to give anybody ideas. Like, it's an amazing, amazing thing. So let's talk about some habits and rituals and superstitions. I know you've got some of those.
Yeah, so it's so the funniest one I do actually is the week, and I'm running up. I guess I've done somewhere between 60 and 70 total competitions. So if you run through how many times now that I've ran through this outside of just watching it, the week leading up to a competition, I watched the whole first season of Barbecue Pitmasters because the first the first season's the only one they follow competition. You know, after that it became that three
Right.
team, duel, if you will. And so the week leading up is sometimes I won't all the way make through it. I'll get it to like episode 5 or 6, but I try to go through the whole season, the week leading to the competition. Wow,
that's cool.
so it's just like a habit at this point. So I'll just fall asleep to it at night, like Monday through Thursday. That's just the go-to. And then it's funny. So one thing I've kind of started lately is I stopped drinking alcohol at the beginning of last year, and so I was like, I kind of want a fun drink with me, So I've started this thing where I'll get like a special. I don't usually drink a lot of soda. I'll try to lay off the sugar, and so I'll splurge and kind of go with these specialty flavor Mountain Dews. So like lately, I've been bringing like a different 12-pack of like a new flavor. And I was just thinking, because I have like 2 left, and I was like, I think I'm going to keep these 2 and maybe drink one of these at every competition for the next 2 competitions. It was like, good luck, right?
Right. It might make a difference. Yeah. You listen to music when you cook?
I do. So usually when we're in the trailer in the morning when I'm by myself, or sometimes when we're boxing, when we're going through our boxes and stuff, I'll have some old rock on. I've been into podcasts lately though, so this weekend I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast in the morning when I was doing boxes, starting on brisket.
Huh, interesting. I don't know if I could focus and do that.
So between when I start my brisket at 5:30, the next hour or so, I usually just build my 4 boxes at that point. It's because I just woke up and then it kind of, I don't even remember building these, because you're just waking up.
Right,
and so
right.
I just put that podcast on and I just like rolled with it while I was doing the boxes. It just caught my attention, kept me going the whole time there.
Huh. Man, this is awesome. I'm learning all kinds of shit. So you have a pretty small little trailer.
Yeah.
What are some of the best investments that you've made on that trailer to get your game to where it is?
I would say, honestly, which I didn't buy it came with the guy that was the vendor. It was a hot dog vendor before. He has this really big refrigerator in there, and it can hold like all kinds of condiments in the top. But it works so perfectly for barbecue because there's so much room in this thing. So I'll have all my meats in there, and then there's like a top shelf you would open where you normally would get your relish and all your cold stuff.
Yeah.
And I can prep because I usually let my briskets and pork, I'll rub them the night before and let them sit out overnight, and it holds the pans perfectly right in the top.
That's cool.
So I really love that, but also I'd say the cookers more than anything. When I don't know if you've seen the style how it folds down in back, right? So it's kind of like a back porch trailer. But immediately the first thing I did is I had took it to a welding shop, and they put that little ramp that folded down to kind of extend another 3-4 feet out, so that I'd have room off the back there. And that's when, up to that point, I'd always cooked on a stick burner. Smoker, I call it Sally. It was a reverse flow stick burner, and I knew I was going to be a little tighter on room on the back of that trailer, and so I ended up deciding to go with pellets, because I kind of wanted to take the whole temperature issue out, because that pit Sally that I was working with, it worked really well, but it was if it started raining, man, it was just a battle, just chasing that temperature and trying to throw more logs on, and I'd get it too hot. And there were so many competitions where I felt like I slightly messed up one or two of the meats because I was chasing a temperature. And I was like, man, I kind of just want to take the whole temperature control thing out of the equation, so it's one less thing to worry about at competitions. So I
that
feel
makes
like
sense.
those smokers went a long way. And I sit back, I was actually thinking about it this weekend when it started raining. One of them is completely exposed. It has nothing over it, and it was just getting rained on, and it was just sitting at the exact temp. And I was like, man, this is crazy. These things will just get poured on and just sit exactly where it's supposed to be.
Right. I mean, a lot of these newer grills that are coming out from these pellet manufacturers really are super stable, and people like to shit on those cookers, and they're great barbecue cookers, man. The flavor's great.
Yeah.
I cook on my Traeger all the time. When people are like, you can't get a smoke ring on a Traeger, I'm like, then you're not doing it right. Like, I don't.
Right. Yeah. And I'll admit, especially, when I was cooking on that stick burner, I hated on pellet smokers. I used to really hate on them bad. And I actually never cooked on one. I didn't know how, and it was, Dave Dick had one, and he had some really successful cooks. He was always in the running. He got a couple 180s. And I was just like, man, like those pellet smokers really work for him. And then I got one for the house out back, and I was like, I'll use this sometimes. I used it like 100% of the time that I was smoking it,
right?
Because I was like, God, this is just so easy, man. I can just set this, and then I fell in love. I was like, I didn't realize how much I would love it until I was like, this makes life so much easier. And that's kind of when I was like, this would be so nice to have this at a competition and just stop trying to chase temperatures, with the sticks of wood that I'm throwing on.
That's awesome. Those are expensive, though. Do you have any tools of $100 or less that have really changed your barbecue game?
Gosh, trying to think. Honestly, not from a tool, nothing outside of like basics, right? Knives and some knives and like little stuff that we use for prepping. Honestly, they're only like $5, but you've probably seen the wristband that I always wear at competitions. Those things, it's quarterback wristband, and they're only like $5 or so. But I hold my timelines in those. I had seen a picture of someone using something like that back in 2020, I think. And so I started the 2021 season, and I'm like list driven. Like every morning for work, when I wake up, I make a checklist and I write in number of priority 1, 2. So then I move to the next thing. Like if I'm going to like pack for vacation, I write a checklist on my dry erase board in the kitchen. So I'm like checklist driven just in general. And so that was just a perfect transition where I keep my timeline just right on my wrist right there, because I like just moving on to the next thing, just constantly just checking things down. And, man, that thing just makes my life so easy. I love just having the schedule for the day just right on my wrist in that thing.
That's an incredible hack. That's really cool. There'll be somebody that listens to this that takes that away. And that's what we're looking for, man. That's entirely awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was, the first year when we started using it, I was like, this is kind of silly. Like, but now, like, I don't even, it's like part of the, I'm like, oh, it's time to cook. Just like pull it on. Like, it's where the schedule's at, Right.
I wear the Blues Hog wristbands when I cook, and all of that is to keep from burning my arm in the Jambo or on the can.
Oh, I've seen. I don't. I see. I didn't know why you wore those. I've seen those. Now that you
Yep.
say that,
Yep.
that makes sense. Then.
I wear it up high on my left arm because that's the hand that I put the logs in the Jambo.
That makes sense.
Yep, and on the right one I wear it a little bit lower, but like that's where I'm in the can and I'm rotating for chicken,
Right.
and it
Right.
protects my wrist, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because now Kim wears them because she's cooking chicken all the time now on the little drum, so she puts them on, and she's like, "Wow, these really help protect my arms." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah. Yeah. Man, if I was still using my old smoker, I'd probably steal that right now because I can't tell you how many times I've had little nick right on my forearms.
Oh,
Throwing
yeah.
wood in or lifting the handle up. It's all the time.
My my right and left arm are both murdered with scars from that Jambo, but that's fine. I'll take every one of them. I love that thing.
Right. That'll.
It's fun though. I mean, let's talk about though, and this is because you were there, but also because you won, but also because you've already referenced it. Jiggy with the piggy.
Yeah.
What an exceptional contest.
Holy moly. I don't know why I haven't been there before. I didn't
Me too.
realize it was such a good contest.
I had heard it. There used to be a contest in Fredericksburg, Virginia, that same weekend all the time. That's 45 minutes from the house. We considered it our hometown contest, so we always did that one. And everybody else would go to Jiggy. We would do that one, and something happened earlier this year, and Kim was like, "Can we please go do that?" And I said, "Yeah, it's the wrong side of North Carolina for us. Anything by Charlotte hates us, but let's go."
You gotta come back to that in a second, but
Yeah. So we went, and I mean, it did everything that everybody said. They drive you in, they get you set up. There were teams of people standing around to help you do whatever.
yeah,
They basically set up Alan from Dog Patch. They basically set up his tent and everything for him. And
that's crazy.
yeah, and ice and town hall was open the whole time.
Yeah, the way and also the place is beautiful. It's
Yeah.
flat. It fits everybody well. I mean, we can't control the rain. If there wasn't rain, that's the only downside of the whole weekend, right?
Right, and even then, it rained a lot, and there were no mud issues getting out.
Yeah.
There was, the festival. They had a big time country act on Friday. They had a drone show, which was amazing.
Yeah, that was really neat.
Yeah, and I sent a message to Eddie today, and I was just like, "Hey, you have our entry for as long as we do this. Like, I won't miss that one." But yeah, let's go back to Western North Carolina. I have not had a good record there.
Honestly, so this was a makeup for me. I wanted to do Covington again because we did so well there last year, and Covington wasn't coming back, so I added Jiggy just because of that. And I was kind of nervous about the same thing because I can go, but I keep like my records I take everything and put it into an Excel sheet afterwards. And I've gone back. I was having this conversation just this last year. There's something about the western side of North Carolina. Nothing works that I do there. Like they hate everything I cook. I could be on a tear and just get, top 10 ribs at, 20 straight contests and I'll get 30th there for some reason. I don't know. And I was nervous going into it, and I was telling actually Dave going down. I was like, I hope this isn't a mistake. I was like, because I never score good here, and then it was crazy because I ended up putting up the highest score I've ever scored ever. Like I can't ever seem to get any success at all.
Yeah, we had the same like we went down there for the good time. We even said that on the way down. We were like, no expectations, no cares. We're going to try and cook well. And it's Western North Carolina, so we're screwed. So,
right.
But we ended up doing pretty good too. So
you guys had a killer weekend. You had pretty successful weekend cook on both days, really.
Yeah, and we were shocked and super happy. I mean,
yeah,
lots of fun. But highlight of the weekend was you winning. That was awesome, man. And seeing your seeing your dad smile and seeing you smile and seeing everybody, like, that was some, barbecue's gotten really weird, in terms of people are so insular in their trailers, and just seeing an entire room coalesce around one person winning and just the joy of that really brought back up a lot of old memories for me and a lot of old feelings, like barbecue's on the way back, and it was awesome, man. And yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad it gave you that same kind of, because I got the same thing. It was, I know I referenced it earlier, but it reminded me a lot of when we won that Backyard World Championship at the first Backyard Invitational, where I remember when we won it, it was the same thing. Like, everyone was crowding us, everyone was hugging us, and it was just like that. I remember walking away from that, and the whole time that night, I still remember telling them, I said, it just felt like everyone was so happy for me, is like what like meant the most about when that happened. And it was kind of like that same feeling. I was like, I just felt like everyone was just happy for us that it happened,
Yeah. And it only happens once.
Yeah, exactly.
It only happens once.
Again.
Right. And whenever you go win your second, your third, and not everybody comes running over to say congrats because they're pissed off that you won. It changes. but it happens once. And man, just to be there, and then to answer the question though, for people who didn't know you, and they were like, well, who's this guy winning his first contest? And being able to say, like, no. Like, this guy's been on the path for a long time. He's a very great cook, very successful. This is not a surprise.
Right. Well, I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And I only had to say it like twice because everybody knows you. But
yeah.
But it's like, no. This is awesome. Like, this was always going to happen, and I'm shocked it didn't happen before now. And I'm still smiling about it, and smiled about it the whole way home, dude. Super happy for you and your pop, and it's great. But I got to hit you with these rapid fires, man.
All right.
Wouldn't be a podcast if we don't do it. So what do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
Honestly, I don't like when people hate on competition barbecue.
Thank you.
It is what I don't like. I feel like if they don't understand it. I hate people that just hate on it, and it's never anyone that's involved in competition barbecue that's hating it.
Nope, that's a good one. Do you have a favorite pre, during, or post competition meal?
I don't have. I wouldn't say it's consistent, but it's my favorite when my dad or someone brings Bojangles chicken biscuits.
That's the best.
Like, because every once in a while, it's always Bojangles for some reason. It's never consistent, but if there's one nearby, or if it's a competition like Galax, where they're always driving in that morning, that he always picks up a chicken biscuit for me from Bojangles.
That's awesome. You're welcome, Bojangles. Do you have a favorite present that you'd like to give to people?
Favorite present? Honestly, probably leftover meats. I love giving everyone the leftover meat. Like, my fiance has people just lined up at work, they're on like a waiting list, and she just brought over the leftovers to another manager over in Blacksburg today, and they were excited. They were taking it home to eat it for dinner. And so probably it's that, because I love, we all love that, is when someone loves our food. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you could have a billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting the message out to millions or billions of people, what would it say?
Ooh. Oh gosh, probably just that's a tough one, man, because I feel like there's so much to get out. I could just be nice to people. Just be nice again, man. Everyone, like, chill out and be nice, honestly, because I feel like it's everything works, almost like the whole backload of what we were just talking about, the whole thing about, I win this competition, and it just felt like everyone was so happy for me. Just be nice to everybody, because it really goes a long way and makes other people feel good too.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because the episode that's coming out before yours is a lot of the conversation was about that. about being kind, being nice, and being full of love. And it was very inspirational. And, yeah, that's a great message, man. And I think, good.
And I'll say, man, the barbecue community in general is just such a nice community too. I'll say that too. You know, when I say be nice, you know, obviously it's got its pockets, right? But
sure.
Overall, when you go to like anyone who gets involved in it is always like, God, it's like the nicest group of people I've ever been around. You know, when you just said gifts, I can think back the first KCBS competition we ever went to, the Butts and Beans one I referenced back in 2017. Yeah. I met Teresa. She was next to us and gave us these little pig corn cob holders. I still use them today when I'm boxing my chicken. That's what I box my chicken with. Are these little corn cob holders she gave me at my first KCBS competition ever. And also I'll just throw this out there. Speaking of people being nice, this weekend, when on Saturday morning, I apparently didn't know, but I dropped my wallet in the bathroom. And a fireman came and returned it. Somebody turned it in, and they didn't take any of the cash out or anything. And I was like,
"Wow!"
It's only the third time or second time it's ever happened in my life. But I was like, the last time my wallet just disappeared. So I was like, man, nobody took anything out of it. They turned it right in. I was like, what a great group of people here.
You had a hell of a Saturday. You got your
wallet
back.
Right? That could have been a kind of a down.
I don't know which one's better.
I know, getting your wallet. I had to get a new ID and all my new cards.
When I lose my wallet, I lose my mind. Like, the first thing that goes is just like, oh my gosh. Like, anyway.
You know, I don't know if you keep your wallet in your back pocket, but you know, like when you feel your pocket and it's got that slight moment of terror when you realize it's not there and you're like, uh-oh. Like,
that's why I moved a front pocket in a small wallet, because I know where it is at all times.
So, Toby just said the same thing to me. I was telling him about that on Saturday, and he was like, boss, I put it in my front pocket years ago so that wouldn't happen.
Man, we got to work on him. I've been trying to get him on here. I think it would.
We'll have to work on him.
I think his story is so fantastic, and his skill with building cookers and it's unbelievable, that pit that he built, and just one of the best people in the world.
He's the nicest guy. Give you the shirt off his back. Like, he's such a nice guy.
Well, Bowman, Debo, as I love yelling Debo, the word Debo.
Debo?
Man, I'm so proud of you and so happy for you. And I'm glad I was there for it. And tell people where they can find you out there.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, just at Bowman's BBQ. And then I was for a while I was using TikTok. I've stopped kind of putting barbecue stuff on there. I was at DC Bowman, but really Bowman's BBQ is what I kind of use. I put all of our competition stuff, of course, but Instagram I really try to focus on cooking videos and some fun stuff at home. I put a lot of like recipe and cooking stuff on there.
Very cool.
We're actually doing some giveaways this month because it's National Barbecue Month, and what better way to kick off the month than to win a grand championship, right?
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being on, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having us.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with your friends. Also be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke TikTok as well. Old Virginia Smoke, one word. That's all you have to search for. It's hilarious. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedanka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC.
Old Virginia Smoke. Old Virginia.